Hello and welcome to today's episode. We're going to talk about something very British and very subtle. It's about how people in the UK use language to be polite, avoid conflict, and say things without really saying them. Yes, today we re-exploring the world of British manners, especially the way people often speak indirectly to keep everything calm, friendly, and socially smooth. If you've ever heard someone in the UK say something like, not bad, when they mean pretty good or interesting, when they actually mean I don't agree at all, then you've already seen this in action. So let's get into it. British politeness is all about being considerate, not making anyone feel uncomfortable, embarrassed, or awkward. But instead of just saying things directly, people often use softer language, hints, or even humor to express what they mean. One of the most common tools for this is understatement. Let's say someone has just finished a brilliant performance. Instead of saying, "That was amazing," a Brit might say, "Not bad at all," or "You've done quite well there." It sounds mild, but it's actually a compliment. That's the trick. Sometimes the meaning is stronger than the words themselves. You'll also hear the phrase, "could be worse." That might be someone talking about their job, their day, or even the weather. What they mean is, it's not great, but I'm not going to complain. Another phrase that sounds negative but is actually positive is "it'll do." It's often used when something is good enough. Not perfect, but acceptable. For example, you show your friend your new haircut, and they say, "Yeah, that'll do." They probably mean, it looks fine, maybe even nice, but they're not going to say it too strongly. Now let's talk about indirectness. British people are famous for not saying what they really think, at least not directly. If something goes wrong or someone makes a mistake, people won't usually say, "You're wrong," or "That's a bad idea." Instead, they'll say something like, "I'm not sure that's quite right," or "Do you think that might be a bit tricky?" It's a way of giving feedback or raising doubts, but gently, without confrontation. Even simple instructions often come in the form of a question, so instead of saying, "Close the window," someone might say, "Would you mind closing the window?" Or, "Is it okay if we close this?" You're still being asked to do something, but in a way that sounds like a suggestion, not an order. This politeness also shows up in how people say no. If you offer something like food, help, or a seat, a British person might say, "I'm all right, thanks," or "I'm fine for now." That's a polite no. Not strong, not rude, just a gentle way to decline. And sometimes people even say maybe, or "I'll let you know," when they actually mean probably not, but they don't want to disappoint you directly. This can be confusing if you're not used to it. You might think they're still deciding when actually the decision has already been made. It's just being expressed in a softer way. Let's look at how this plays out in real life. Imagine you're visiting someone's home. They ask, "Would you like a cup of tea?" Even if you want one. The polite thing in Britain is often to say, "Oh, I'm fine, thanks." At least the first time. You might be offered again, and that's when you can say, "Actually, yes, that would be lovely." This little dance of offer dash, decline dash, offer dash, accept is very common. It shows that you're not greedy or demanding. You're being polite. And when you're the one offering, it's expected that you'll offer more than once. If you only ask once, the other person might think you don't really mean it. It's the same in restaurants or when paying for something. Friends might say, I'll get this, and the other person will say, no, and there'll be a polite little argument. Even if someone clearly plans to pay, it's common to go through the motions of offering, refusing, and then finally accepting. Another feature of British manners is the heavy use of sorry. People in the UK say sorry all the time, even when it is not their fault. You might bump into someone in the street and they say, sorry. You say it too, and then both of you continue walking. It's not always a real apology. Sometimes it just means excuse me, or even I'm being polite. You'll hear things like, sorry, would you mind if I squeeze past? Sorry, could I just ask a quick question? Sorry, I didn't catch that. It's about softening the interaction, making sure the other person feels comfortable. Even disagreement is usually done politely. Instead of saying, you're wrong, someone might say, that's one way of looking at it, or I see what you're saying, but it keeps the conversation friendly. Even if there's a difference of opinion, humor is also part of British politeness, especially self-deprecating humor. That's when you make fun of yourself to put others at ease. Someone might say, I'm useless with technology, or don't ask me. I've got no clue. It's not always true, but it helps keep things relaxed. It shows you're not taking yourself too seriously. You'll also hear phrases that sound like criticism, but are said in a friendly tone. Oh, well done. Took you long enough. Look who's finally arrived. These comments might sound rude in other cultures, but in Britain, if said with a smile or laugh, they're often just playful. It depends a lot on tone and context. British people also avoid direct complaints. If something's wrong, like cold food in a restaurant, they might say, sorry, I think this might be a bit cold. Or, would it be possible to warm this up a little? Even then, they might apologize again just for asking. You can also hear indirect ways of saying something's not good. It's not my favorite. Could be better. It's different. That last one, different, can mean almost anything. Sometimes it really means not great, but the speaker doesn't want to be too harsh. So, how can you understand what people really mean? It helps to pay attention to the context, the tone of voice, and sometimes just ask. British people usually don't mind explaining, especially if you're not from the UK. In fact, they often enjoy sharing these little quirks. It's also good to learn some typical phrases and responses. For example, when someone says, you don't have to, but they probably mean they'd really like you to. If someone says, it's up to you, they might actually have a strong opinion but don't want to pressure you. And when you hear, I might have a little look, it usually means they're quite interested. Understanding British manners isn't just about language. It's about reading between the lines, feeling the rhythm of conversation, and responding with similar softness and care. It's not about being fake. It's about being thoughtful, being kind, making space for everyone to feel comfortable, even when things are awkward. Of course, not every British person speaks like this. Some are more direct, especially in places like London. But in general, this way of speaking, polite, indirect, gentle, is very common across the UK. So next time you hear someone say, it's not bad, try to hear the meaning behind the words. It might actually mean very good. And when someone says, you don't have to, it might be their very British way of saying, please do. That's the charm of British politeness. It's full of hints, suggestions, and unspoken meanings. But once you get used to it, you'll see how much it helps conversations feel smooth, respectful, and yes, sometimes even quite funny. Thanks for listening today. I hope this episode helped you understand a little more about British communication and gave you some useful phrases for everyday life. Until next time, be kind, be polite, and maybe don't say exactly what you mean. Just hint at it.